Hi friends, it's Allison here. Thank you again for joining me on my channel today. I'm back again to share with you another Cricut inspired layout. Before I got this video recorded, I decided to adhere all of the die cuts together off camera just to see if that would speed up the process of creating videos. So I just wanted to show you all of the completed glued together die cuts that I'll be working with today in this layout, including the overlay that I'm going to be gluing to the gray base in just a moment. But you'll notice that the overlay die cut didn't cut 100%. When I flip it over and get it adhered, you'll be able to see it. There's one row that didn't cut very well. I wasn't too concerned about that because it's going to be hidden by the other elements that are going to be placed on the layout. So I just pointed out, in case you still weren't entirely sure, where the parts are that didn't cut out. And as you can see, the giant tag that I'm just gluing right now is going to go over the one portion, the one side of it, along with the XOXO heart, with I thought was super cute. It's a bunch of different cuts. You can see the different colors in there. So I cut it from white, I cut it from peach, which actually is Heidi Swapp storyline pattern paper. There is some Close to My Heart raspberry in there. And I think those are the three colors. So the white, the peach, and the raspberry makes up that die cut. And I love it all put together. My daughter was down with me when I put it together, and she asked me to cut another one for her specifically because she loved it that much too. And I agree, it's super duper cute. This file will be available for anybody that wants to use it in Cricut Design Space. I will leave the link to it in the description box down below, as well as all of the products that I use in this video if they are still available. So you can find those for yourself as well. I am a Close to My Heart consultant, so any Close to My Heart products that I use, you'll be directed to my website, and you will be helping support my small business if you make a purchase from there. It's Canadian residents only, sorry, at this time. But if you're Canadian and you need to stock up on goodies, I'd love to help you out with that. So I cut out these floral clusters as well. I adhered them all together before I did the video too. There's a whole bunch of pieces that go with them. Some small, some are bigger. And I used my Tombow Mono to glue them all together. I find it works the best for finicky stuff like this and the really tiny stuff. Okay, so I know I need to get tweezers. I really want the reverse tweezers, I think they're called, because I use my scissors for everything, and they're starting to get buildup on them from adhesive and stuff like that, and I could clean it. I probably should, but I'm afraid to because I'm accident prone and I will end up doing something to hurt myself. So I kind of stay away from it and have sort of been thinking that I should maybe just invest in a decent pair of tweezers. I have been looking. I've been looking on Amazon, and I'm just waiting for the right time to get that done. There's lots of big stuff coming up for us, my family, in the next year, a little bit less than that. So I'm picking and choosing what I need right now until things kind of slow down for us and we get resettled. I'll share more about that in the future because it is going to affect my crafting and you guys for a short period of time. Hopefully not, but likely. So, okay, back to crafting. There are 3 clusters around the photo and the heart that I'm placing the flowers. I cut them in a couple of different colors. You can see the the teal and the navy blue cluster of flowers, and then there's also a white and green cluster. In those flowers, I used a mixture of Heidi Swapp again and Close to My Heart. Some of it is retired Close to My Heart pattern papers that I've had forever. And I tend not to use them in my die cutting because I find their pattern papers don't cut very well with the Cricut. I don't know why. Cardstock is fine, but I have a tough time with their pattern paper. But this time, the stars aligned and it worked fairly well. Some of the leaf branches, I guess you call them, kind of broke off while they were cutting, but they were easy enough to glue back in and you'd never know that they broke off. But the Heidi Swapp paper, on the other hand, both the pattern paper and the cardstock cuts really nicely, and I haven't had any issues with it at all. So I'm just adding this super cute little Cupid that I cut with my Cricut. It's just cut from Close to My Heart pebble cardstock. And I am also adhering a really cute little GPS dot over top of the flowers down at the bottom of the photo. I scrapbooked another picture of Miss Ava. She is frequently in my scrapbooks along with my kids and both dogs, as you know. They are some of my favorite subjects. And at this point, I had wanted to add a pennant to my layout. I cut the word darling, but it didn't cut so well, so I just scrapped it and decided that I was going to stamp it instead. So I'm using my Close to My Heart modern typewriter alphabet stamp. I'm using the uppercase alphas to create the word darling, and I'll stamp that in Close to My Heart black ink, and then I will trim it down and glue it to the gray pennant that was already cut. And then once that's done, it's going to go to the bottom of the picture where I just put the little pink GPS dot. I cut a lot of this part out of the video. I stamped darling a total of 3 times. This is the 3rd time. The first time, I can't remember what happened, but I made a mistake. I made a boo-boo of some sort. The second time I did it, I started playing around with it after I got it attached to the layout. There was a lot of negative space in front of the word darling, and I wanted to fill that somehow. So the idea was to use some American Crafts ribbon that I had, and I made a mess of that. So I scrapped that, did it a 3rd time, 3rd time's the charm, and decided to pull out some Close to My Heart acrylic shapes that I have. They are white. Oh, but look at this. Before I do that, I pulled out my Close to My Heart raspberry shimmer brush, and I decided to fill in all of the raspberry pieces on my layout and add just a little bit of sparkle. So I show you some of this on the video, and then I turn it off and then complete it without the camera rolling just to save time. If you can hear my dog, just ignore him. He's in here with me and he's talking to me. He wants to get out. Okay, so here's the little storage container that I use to keep my stickles in, and some glitter paste, and then all around the sides are these little plastic cubby box things that I put sequins in. It's not very sequin friendly. And then my wood veneer shapes and acrylic shapes and other odds and ends. I found these at the Dollarama, so if you want these yourself, go check them out. They're super handy and super cute. They were in a couple of different colors. I personally liked the teal color, so that's what I chose. But that's what I used to store that stuff. So I pulled out the acrylic shapes and also some wood veneer. And after I get them glued down, I'm going to take one of my Spectrum Noir markers and I'm going to color them in. Did you know that you could color on acrylic shapes and the color will not wipe off? You can also color on wood veneer. Yes, I learned this last summer when I went to Close to My Heart convention in Provo, Utah. That's when they introduced these acrylic shapes at Close to My Heart, and we made a project using them and we colored them. And I thought that was pretty smart. So I decided to dig in my bag of little surprises and do that on this layout. So I've decided on the arrow that I want to use underneath XOXO. I did have another one that I'd cut with my Cricut, but once again, it didn't cut very well. I think it's time for a new mat, quite honestly. But I honestly use mine until they are 100% dead before I throw them out. And then use a new one. So instead of cutting another arrow, I just decided to use wood veneer because I have it. I need to get it used up, and it looks great on the layout as is and colored as well. I could have done all the sides of all the shapes if I'd wanted to, but because I glued them first and then colored them, I just did the tops. So here I'm trying to figure out which acrylic hearts I want to use. I end up using one solid one and then one open one with negative space in the center. And then I actually decide later on to keep true to the threes rule. I add another complete heart to one of the O's in XOXO, and then I color that one as well. And I think the color that I use is I'm gonna have to check that out. I can't remember. It's the color that most closely resembles the lagoon, the teal color that I used in the flowers. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but I will include that in the description box down below. I didn't know which color would work the best, so I pulled out the two pens that I thought would be the best and just scribbled a little bit on a scrap piece of white cardstock just to color match, and then decided obviously that I would go with the lighter one. The other one was too green, so I put it aside. I do think I show you here which one I used, but yeah, I can't read it. It's too hard to see, too dark. So I'm just showing you there which elements or icons I'm going to color in. I use the darkest shade of the Tri-Blend markers and just colored them in. There was nothing special that I did to fill them in. Just went to town coloring a little bit. I've had a real hankering for coloring in my crafting recently. This was a great way to kind of relieve that itch. But I do have another layout coming up in the near future that is going to focus on coloring, so watch for that. I guess before I adhered these acrylic shapes, I colored them first and then adhered them. I didn't color all sides, I just did the top, because that's really all you're going to notice, right, to be honest. So I just did the tops. Tombow Mono works really well to glue these acrylic shapes down. You just need to hold them for a little bit so that they do adhere. You could put something heavy on top too, just so that you don't have to sit there and use your own elbow grease, free up your hands to do something else while they're drying. But I've had no issues with them not sticking, and coming off. So that's good to know. And quite honestly, with that, my friends, this layout is totally done. I forgot to mention, going way back to the beginning, the overlay that I made that's in the background from the white cardstock, I actually designed that myself. I'm pretty proud of that, I do have to say. It wasn't really hard. All I did was I found an XOXO cut file in my image library on the Cricut, and then I repeated it a number of times to make a block, and then duplicated that so that it filled the sheet. And then once that was all done, I attached it and then I just attached it, and then it cuts the way that you see it here. And I love that function. It makes things look so neat and just adds another layer of dimension to whatever it is that you are working on. So here's that last acrylic heart. I'm just trying to find one that works, one that is not too small, and obviously one that's not too big. And once I finally settle on the perfect heart, I color it in and the layout is complete. I do add the date after I've turned off the camera. And are you ready for this? I skipped journaling this time. I know journaling to me is so important, and it is not very often that I don't include journaling, but I really don't have a whole lot left to say about Ava at this point. I've scrapbooked her so much. There's nothing left to say. So I do have some close-ups. They're coming up right away here. So if you want to stick around for that, that would be fantastic. I also want to know from you guys what you prefer. Do you like the shorter videos that are sped up uber fast and they are shorter because it's sped up so fast? Or do you like them a little bit longer and slower so you can see what's going on and take it all in? Let me know down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Once again, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again very soon. Bye, guys.